Hey, it's Sam. I'm making this quick video about the upcoming Venus retrograde cycle and the winter solstice that is happening on December 21st. Both of these events will happen at the same time. Venus turns retrograde right before the solstice and almost exact same time. And the Venus retrograde is going to be a time where we reflect on our relationships, the way we're treating others, and really kind of get clear about it. Venus is the planet of adult relationships, adult interactions, two adults interacting with each other through mutual desire. This is the thing to understand about Venus. And, that doesn't mean like a parent and a child, a student and a teacher, or where there's any kind of sort of hierarchy, a boss and an employee. But it's actually two adults in a partnership. Understand, every relationship is different. Every planet relates to a certain kind of relationship. Like the sun is sort of parental authoritative relationships, like with your boss. The moon is kind of like a maternal kind of relationship, and Mercury is also about equals. Mercury and Venus really have to do with that sort of equality. But, Mercury is neutral. And it can do all kinds of different things, but Venus is where we feel the need to respect another person equal to ourselves. And it's where, first of all, we have a desire to want to feel good ourselves first. We're drawn to connect with others because it feels good, because we want to experience pleasure for ourselves. Not just through other people. In fact, Venus rules all forms of pleasure and happiness, which starts with just our own physical pleasure, like eating food, for instance. Doesn't have anything to do with other people, but food tastes good, and we enjoy it based on Venus. That's the Venus principle. As that evolves, then we take that quality of just wanting to enjoy for ourselves, which, we can understand through things like food and sex and other things where we just get pleasure, and then we want to share it. We want, instead of the sex being just about my pleasure, I want it to be about yours as well. And I don't feel good if my pleasure comes at your expense. This is the kind of dynamic of Venus as we evolve through. And then the highest quality of Venus is where it's not even about other people in my significant other circle, where it's, sharing my pleasure with theirs. But then that whole thing, once we learn the secret of how to compromise our desires with another person, then we learn the secret of Venus, which is compromise and learning to connect what we love or what we find beautiful, which is the real key, and what we desire, with something that's even higher than the world of other people. Most of us are hanging out in that space of other people, and Venus energy is a very deep principle of other people and how we treat them and how they treat us, and we're trying to kind of evolve that process beyond just the other people in our life towards something that's more universal. And so this dynamic will get shaken out quite a bit as Venus goes retrograde. Now, it's also going to be aspected by Jupiter, who is also retrograde, through much of the transit. At least when we do Vedic astrology, we really consider that there's an aspect happening anytime the planets are in opposite signs. They do get very close to the exact orb around the end of January, when Venus goes retrograde, right back to about 19 of sidereal Sagittarius, and Jupiter is about 18 of sidereal Gemini. So they're going to get very close, and then Venus moves direct again. So wherever you have the signs of Gemini and Sagittarius will be feeling that Venus retrograde transit. And of course, whatever houses Venus rules for you, however Venus is situated in your astrology chart when you were born, also whatever planetary cycles you're in, all of those are the subtleties. I did a webinar, a web class about this, a free web class where I talk about the 2014 year ahead, and I talk quite a bit about the Venus retrograde. If you didn't see it, you should check it out. I have a link to it on this page, and you should really look for it and check it out. So besides that, we also have the first day of winter coming on the 21st, and this is in Indian lore. It's called Makara Sankranti. This is the actual Makara Sankranti. Makara means Capricorn, and Sankranti means ingress, or the sun going into Capricorn. Thousands of years ago, Makara Sankranti corresponded with the sidereal sign of Capricorn as well. Now it doesn't, because when you use sidereal zodiac, the Sun is actually still in Sagittarius. Now when Makara Sankranti happens, the Sun, the actual Makara Sankranti, which is Sun going into Capricorn, and the Ayana, the northern course of the Sun starts, that's now the Sun is at about 6 degrees of sidereal Sagittarius. But this was significant because it was called Makara Sankranti at the time that it corresponded with the sidereal Rashi of Makara. Unfortunately, now we have, there's some mistakes being done because these calendars are hard to reckon. And still in India, we have Makara Sankranti being celebrated on when the Sun goes into sidereal Makara, which doesn't happen until like January 15th. So you have to understand that Makara Sankranti is a solstice celebration because it celebrates the return of the light, the northern course when the Sun changes direction, and that's why the winter solstice is so important. That's why we have Christmas. There's so much symbology around Christmas that has to do with the solstice and the return of the light, the return of the Sun, like the Son of God, the Sun, you know that thing up there in the sky? It actually even used to be called Saturnalia in ancient Rome, which was a celebration of Saturn, old man winter Saturn. So it's a big important day when the Sun changes direction and moves north. The Sun has been moving south and then it changes and moves north. Now the interesting thing about it is it's called the return of the light, but it's the day when there's the least amount of light, so it's the darkest day. And so what happens is on the darkest day we celebrate the return of the light, because the way it really works is that the Sun keeps getting, the Sun changes in an instant. It's a switch. It's like flipping on a switch. And so the Sun, let's say on that day of the first day of winter, the Sun keeps getting, it keeps getting darker and darker and darker, and the Sun is as dark as it's going to get. It's, the Sun is at the deepest point of its southern direction as possible, and then the next second it switches. It's dark, 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 light, light, light. So it's going south, 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 as far south as possible, and then the next second it's light. It starts to change direction. And so this is what happens on the first day of winter, the solstice. So we celebrate the return of the light on the darkest day. So, you might feel some kind of, sadness and depression a little bit. When this, winter is hard. Of course, this is in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, it's first day of summer on December 21st. But it's, it's not unusual to feel sort of a little sullen and a little, sad at times in the winter because there's less sunlight. And so give yourself space for that, and, be kind to yourself and to others, and, try to, understand that the brighter days are coming. That's why we would celebrate, and that's what Christmas is actually. It became a celebration of the solstice, or it started as a celebration of solstice. So, a couple important things, and again, check out the web class that I did on 2014. I think you'll really like it. It talks about the Venus retrograde cycle. It also talks about Mars, which is going to be in either Virgo or Libra for half the year 2014, and a few other things. So have a great day and weekend, and we'll talk soon.